I never thought I'd be the guy sharing this kind of story, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything that's gone down. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for about 6 years before everything fell apart. We had what most people would call a solid relationship, or at least, that's what I thought. We didn't have many big fights, no serious blowouts, and she always put on this act like she loved me. But if I'm honest, there were always little signs, things I ignored or rationalized away because I was busy with work or just trying to keep the peace. In the last year, I was diagnosed with cancer. It hit me out of nowhere, and suddenly my world shrank to appointments, chemo, and just trying to hold on to what life I had left. Lisa was supposed to be my rock. That's what I told myself. She said she was supporting me, cooking meals, going to treatments with me sometimes, crying with me. I thought she was my partner in everything. Looking back now, I realize I was so caught up in fighting my own battle that I missed the way she was changing. She'd been acting weird for months. She started working late more often, claiming it was a new project at her job. She'd get these texts and hide her phone whenever I came near. I just chalked it up to her being stressed or busy. We'd have small arguments, mostly about her being distant, but she'd brush me off, saying I was overreacting or that I was imagining things. She'd tell me I was paranoid, that she was just tired from work and everything I was going through was making me insecure. I wanted to believe her, but deep down, there was this nagging feeling that something was off. Then one night I came home early from the hospital. I had a bad day and I just needed to get out of the chemo room for a bit. I walk into the house, expecting to find her in the kitchen, maybe making soup or just waiting for me. Instead, I hear muffled voices coming from the bedroom. My heart started pounding. I knew I shouldn't be eavesdropping, but I couldn't help myself. I crept closer, and that's when I saw her. Lisa, my wife, in bed with her so-called best friend Alex. They were just cuddling or kissing. It was sex, plain and simple. I saw it all, her twisted smile, his hands on her, the way she moaned. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I froze, unable to breathe or move. My mind went blank. I felt so betrayed, so humiliated. How long had this been going on? Was this the reason she was acting so distant? Did she even care about me at all? All the questions swirled around my head, but the one thing I knew was that my wife had completely lied to me about her support. While I was fighting cancer, she was fucking my best friend. I didn't say a word that night. I just left, went outside, and stood in the dark trying to process what I'd seen. I was furious. At her, at Alex, even at myself for not noticing sooner. I told myself I'd confront her tomorrow, but the truth was, I was already planning what to do next. How do you come back from something like this? How do you even look at someone you shared everything with and realize they've been lying to your face? I was lost, broken, and feeling more alone than I ever have in my life. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach that refused to loosen. I kept replaying everything I saw, the way Lisa looked, the way Alex's hands moved, the sound of her gasp that still haunted me. I couldn't get the image out of my head, no matter how much I wanted to. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I had to be careful. This wasn't just some petty fight or a misunderstanding. This was betrayal on a level I never expected from the woman I loved and trusted. I spent the day trying to act normal, but inside I was a wreck. Every time I looked at her, I saw her lying, smirking, pretending everything was fine. I thought about all the times she'd told me she supported me, that she was there for me no matter what. Turns out that was all a lie. She was only there when it suited her, when she could pretend to be my hero. Behind my back, she was playing a different game altogether. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told her I needed to talk. Her face immediately shifted, like she knew what was coming, but she played innocent as if she had no idea what I was about to say. I laid it all out, the pictures, the clips I secretly recorded on my phone, the texts I found on her hidden email account. I showed her everything, her reaction. She blinked, then scoffed and rolled her eyes. "Are you serious, Mike?" She snapped, crossing her arms. "You think I'd cheat on you while you're sick? That's ridiculous. You're just jealous or paranoid. Maybe you're losing it with all the stress and treatments." I felt my blood boil. I told her I wasn't crazy, that I'd seen her with my own eyes, that I knew she'd been lying. Her response: an even more bizarre excuse. She said I was imagining things, that Alex or I had somehow manipulated the evidence, that I was accusing her because I was weak and desperate for someone to blame. She called me clingy, needy, told me I was holding onto the past, and that I was crazy for even thinking she'd cheat on me when I was vulnerable. That was the moment I realized just how cold and manipulative she could be. She wasn't going to admit fault. She wasn't even sorry. Instead, she started gaslighting me, turning the tables, making it seem like I was the one losing my mind. She said I was distorting reality, that I was making her out to be a villain because I was insecure. It was surreal. I felt like I was losing my grip, like I was trapped in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But knowing what I saw, I couldn't back down. I told her I needed space and time to think. I gathered the evidence, packed a bag, and left the house that day. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew I couldn't stay there. The betrayal cut so deep, worse than anything I'd experienced before. It wasn't just the sex or the lies, it was the fact that she lied about everything. The support, the love, the friendship. She'd lied about it all while she was in bed with my best friend Alex. The worst part: she kept texting me, acting like everything was fine, like I was overreacting. She'd send these bitchy messages saying I was blowing things out of proportion, that I was crazy for even bringing it up. She said I was weak for not being able to handle her support. I remember reading her texts and feeling like I was hit by a freight train. It made me realize how much of a master manipulator she was, telling me what I wanted to hear, then doing the opposite behind my back. After I left the house that day, I felt numb. I couldn't think straight, and honestly, I didn't want to. My mind kept circling back to what I saw, her in bed with Alex, the way she lied to my face, the promises she made to support me during my cancer treatments. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I trusted someone who was essentially stabbing me in the back behind my back all this time. For the first few days, I stayed away from her, trying to process everything. I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the images replaying like a sick movie. I kept questioning my own judgment. Was I wrong to trust her? Was I naive for believing that she genuinely cared about me? Or was I just fooling myself all along? I felt angry, devastated, and honestly pretty betrayed. The worst part was that she didn't seem remorseful at all. Instead, she played the victim, calling me crazy or possessive when I confronted her with the truth. One night, I decided I needed to get some clarity. I reached out to Alex, my so-called best friend. I didn't want to do anything rash, but I needed to hear from him directly. I sent him a message saying I knew everything, that I had proof. His reply: he tried to deny everything at first, then got defensive, calling me unstable and jealous. He even had the nerve to say that Lisa was just supporting me during my treatment and that I was overreacting. I laughed bitterly at that. Supporting? The guy was in bed with my wife. How much more support does a guy need? I knew then that I had to confront them both. I wanted to hear the lies straight from their mouths. So I arranged to meet Alex in a parking lot, thinking maybe I could get some answers face to face. When I saw him standing there, trying to look casual, I felt a strange mix of rage and sadness. I told him I knew about the affair, that I had proof. His face went pale and he stammered, trying to deny it again, but I cut him off. I pulled out my phone and showed him the videos, the screenshots, everything. His shoulders slumped, and he looked like a guy who'd just been caught stealing from his own family. Then I went home to Lisa. I knew I had to hear her side, even if I dreaded what I'd find. I was furious, but I was also desperate for closure. I called her and told her to come over. When she arrived, she had that typical bitchy smirk on her face, like she was expecting me to beg or cry. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I told her I knew everything, about her lying, about her cheating, about her messing around with Alex during the worst time of my life. She tried to deny it, but her voice cracked under the pressure. Then she snapped, telling me I was just jealous and paranoid, that I was making it all up because I couldn't handle the truth. I looked at her and realized how much I'd been blind. She had been lying through her teeth the entire time. She painted herself as the victim, tried to guilt-trip me into backing down. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her it was over, that I was done with her lies, that I didn't want to see her again until she figured out what she really wanted. She kept trying to talk, throw more excuses at me, but I just shut her down. I knew I'd never forget the betrayal, but I also knew I had to start taking control of my life again. That night, I stayed in my car for hours trying to calm down. I felt like I'd been kicked in the chest, completely shattered. I was angry that she'd used me, that she'd betrayed me during my cancer battle, that she'd lied about everything. But I also felt a strange sense of relief, like I finally saw her for what she was, an unfaithful, manipulative bitch who never cared about me at all. The trust was gone, and honestly, I didn't know if I could ever get it back. All I knew was that I had to move on, no matter how much it hurt. The days that followed felt like some kind of blurry nightmare. I stayed away from her, trying to focus on myself, but the pain was raw and constant. Every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, a surge of anger and betrayal hit me all over again. It was like I'd been handed a mirror and seen my life broken into pieces, and all because she decided to lie and cheat while I was at my most vulnerable. I kept thinking about everything I'd given her, all the trust I'd placed in her, and how she repaid me with lies and sex with my best friend. I remember sitting in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, asking myself what I could have done differently. Was I blind? Did I miss all the red flags? Or was she just that good at hiding her true colors? I kept trying to piece everything together, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had been completely played. She had told me she was supporting me, acting like she was my savior during my cancer fight. But the truth was, she was just using my weakness to her advantage, getting her kicks while I was at my lowest. It made me sick. One night I decided I needed to confront her again, to get some kind of closure, or maybe just to hear her lie to my face one more time. I told her I'd meet her at the park near her place. When she arrived, she had that annoying smirk again, like she thought she still had some control over me. I looked at her and just said, "You lied. All of it. You said you were supporting me, but you were screwing Alex behind my back. How does that support? How does that support me fighting cancer?" She rolled her eyes and scoffed. "You're crazy, Mike. You're just overreacting because you're insecure. Alex is just a friend, and you're jealous because he's actually got a job and a life. You're just bitter because I didn't sleep with you every night when you were sick. Honestly, I was doing all this because I cared. You're the one who pushed me away." I couldn't believe the audacity. She had the nerve to call herself the victim after everything she'd done. I told her that I had proof, screenshots, videos, everything, but she just brushed it off, acting like I was the one losing my mind. "You need help, Mike," she spat. "You're crazy for even thinking I'd cheat on you. Maybe the cancer's messing with your head." Her words stung, not because I doubted myself, but because it was clear she'd perfected her game of manipulation. I felt my fists clench. All this time, I'd been fighting to survive, and she had been screwing around with my best friend behind my back. It was almost poetic how much she claimed to support me, yet she was doing the exact opposite. I told her I didn't want to see her again, that I was done. Done with her lies, her games, her betrayal. I said I'd file for divorce, and that was the last time I wanted to hear her voice. She looked surprised for a second, but then she snapped at me, calling me pathetic and weak, like I was the one losing my mind. That confrontation was a turning point. I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to cut her out and focus on healing mentally and emotionally. I started looking into lawyers, gathering evidence to make sure I could move forward with the divorce, and slowly I began to detach myself emotionally. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, feeling like I'd lost everything: my wife, my best friend, my sense of stability. But at the same time, I felt a little lighter, like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't want her to control me anymore. I was done being the victim of her lies. Looking back now, I see how much I was blinded by love and hope. I really believed she cared, that she was supporting me through my fight against cancer. But she was just using me, using my vulnerability to get her kicks, hiding her affair with Alex like it was some big secret. The betrayal cut so deep. It's still raw, but I'm starting to see the truth clearly now. And honestly, that made all the difference. I'm still healing, yeah, but I know deep down I deserve better, someone who isn't going to use me as a pawn in their game. The lesson: never ignore the signs and never let someone manipulate your trust, especially not when your world is already falling apart. The months that followed were a roller coaster. I threw myself into working out, therapy, and just trying to rebuild my life. Things I should have done from the start, but the betrayal made me realize I'd been stuck in a toxic situation longer than I wanted to admit. I filed for divorce, and going through the legal process was as painful as I expected. Every document, every conversation with my lawyer felt like another wound opening up, but I knew I had to do it for myself. During this time, I blocked her number, her social media, everything. I didn't want to see her face, didn't want to hear her voice. Still, sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if I'd missed something, if I could have fought harder or done something different. But then I remembered the look in her eyes when she was caught. She knew she'd been caught, and she didn't care. That's when I understood. She never cared about supporting me. She just wanted to keep her lies hidden, keep her affair with Alex under wraps until she could get away with it. One day, about 2 months after everything came crashing down, I ran into an old friend, Sarah. She knew about the divorce, about what I'd been through, and she reached out to check in. We started talking more, and I realized I was finally starting to breathe again. For the first time in a long while, I felt hope. Maybe I could find someone who genuinely cared, someone who wouldn't lie to me or betray me during my toughest battles. But I also had to face the reality that I'd been betrayed in the worst way possible, by the woman I loved and trusted and by my closest friend. That kind of betrayal doesn't just disappear, it leaves scars. I've learned that trust is fragile, and when broken, it's almost impossible to repair unless both parties are willing to put in the effort. But with Lisa and Alex, I saw clearly, they didn't want to fix anything. They thought they could get away with it, that they could lie and cheat and still keep their lives intact. So I made peace with the fact that I was better off without them, that I was worth more than someone who would lie and cheat while I was fighting for my life. The biggest lesson I've taken from all this: never let anyone make you feel guilty for seeing the truth. Never accept lies just because the person lying is someone you love. And most importantly, never forget that your worth isn't defined by how someone else treats you, especially not by someone who's proven they don't deserve your trust. I'm not perfect, and I still have bad days. But I'm moving forward, stronger, more cautious, and determined not to let anyone manipulate me again. That's what I want others to know. If you're going through something similar, don't stay silent. You deserve honesty, respect, and true support. Don't let betrayal become your story. Instead, use it as a lesson to protect yourself and find the strength to walk away from the ones who don't deserve you. Looking back now, I realize that this whole experience, brutal as it was, taught me more about myself than I ever expected. I learned that trust is delicate, and once broken, it takes a lot of effort to rebuild, not just with others but with yourself. I used to think love meant never giving up, always fighting for what's right, but I've come to understand that sometimes the hardest fight is knowing when to walk away. Lisa's lies and betrayal cut deep, but eventually I came to see that I couldn't keep clinging to the hope that she'd change or that she still cared. She showed me who she really was, and I had to accept that. I was angry, yes. Hurt, obviously. But underneath all that, I found a sense of relief. I was finally free from the manipulation, the lies, the false support. I no longer had to pretend. I could finally see things clearly, and that clarity gave me the strength to start over. The most valuable lesson I want others to take from my story is this: never ignore the red flags, especially when you're vulnerable. If someone truly cares, they won't lie to you or cheat behind your back, no matter how hard life gets. When the foundation of trust is shattered, there's no quick fix. Healing takes time, and sometimes walking away is the only way forward. Today, I focus on myself. I've started therapy, reconnected with old friends, and even began dating again cautiously. I've learned to set boundaries and to listen to my gut, because my gut was right all along. I won't let myself be blindsided again. I know now that I am enough just as I am, and I don't need someone who manipulates or betrays me. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to understand, it's this: you're stronger than you think. No matter how much it hurts or how broken you feel right now, there is a way out. You just have to be brave enough to face the truth and to prioritize your own well-being. Trust is precious, and when it's gone, it's painful to rebuild, but it's possible. I'm living proof of that. And I hope that anyone going through something similar can find the courage to walk away and start fresh, because life is too short to waste on people who don't genuinely care.